In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Shape tool in Adobe Illustrator to make a project that looks similar to this one. First of all, let's talk about Illustrator. I can tell that I have Illustrator open because there's an orange AI up here in the corner. The last person that used the program may have left palettes moved all over the place, might have closed things or opened things, and in general, it's a good idea to set things back to kind of normal. And the way that you do that is go to Window, Workspace, and choose Reset Essentials. So what that does is opens most of the basic panels that you'll be using over here, tidies things up, and puts it over here on the edge. You can click on these little arrows here to open and close, to expand these panels when you need them. So for now, we will just leave everything tucked over here to the side. Next, I'm going to create a new file, and to do that, I'm going to go to File, New. Now, for some reason on different computers, this new document window might look different. So the thing to remember is that even though it might look slightly different, the basic things are all going to be there. So you'll be able to name it, and I will name this Shape Tool. And I'm also going to put my name on it because I don't want it to get mixed up with other people's projects. Down here, I will have the width and the height in pixels. I could also change it to inches if I wanted to, but for this project, I'm going to leave it on pixels. I have the orientation, so I can have it vertical or horizontal, and I will leave it horizontal. Now, a simple way to pick a size is to click on Mobile, Web, or Print, Film, or Video. I'm going to choose Web and choose the minimum size. Now, you might not be able to see this on your computer, so just type in on the width 1024 pixels, and the height is 768 pixels, and then click Create. So here is my nice new document. So over here in our Layers panel, we have all sorts of tools. The tool that I want you to find is the Shape tool. Right now, the Star tool was the shape that was on top. If you click and hold on the Star tool, this little menu pops out, and all of these different types of shape tools are showing. So depending on which tool the last person that used Illustrator used, it could be the rectangle tool that's showing, it could be the ellipse tool that's showing. So after a while, you'll become familiar with that, and it will be easier for you to recognize. So please click and hold on the Shape tool and choose the first one, which is the rectangle tool. You'll notice that in my color swatches, I have white, which is the fill, and I have black, which is the stroke or outline. So if I simply click and drag on here, I can pull out a white rectangle with a black line around it. Now, in order to deselect this, you might be tempted to just click off to the side, but if you do that, let me show you what happens. Illustrator thinks that you want to make another rectangle, so I will cancel that. In order to deselect, you can click another tool, like the Move tool, which is the hollow arrow or the black arrow, and click off of it. Then you can move it to different places on the canvas. There are other ways to deselect. For example, there's keyboard shortcuts like Control or Command Shift A also deselects. All right, so I'm going to reselect that with the selection tool here, the black arrow, and I'm going to change the color of that. There are multiple ways to change the color. One way is to go up here to my color chips, and for the fill, I can pop this open, and let's just randomly choose this blue color. Now here's the stroke, which is the outline. So I'll open that up and I'll randomly choose this orange color. Now you can see that the stroke is very small. I can barely see it. That's because it's set for 1 point. So I will pop this open and let's set it for something a lot thicker. So 7. Now I'll show you how to change the size of it. As long as you have the selection tool, you can grab any of the corners or any of the side handles and you can change the size of that object. Okay, now let's go ahead and use another shape tool. So I'm going to click and hold on the rectangle tool and get the rounded rectangle tool. And now I will click and drag out a rounded rectangle. And you'll notice that it has the same attributes as the first object that I drew. That's because those are the colors that are selected for my fill and my stroke. So now for this one, I'm going to show you a different way to change the color. And that is to use the Swatches panel. Right now, the Swatches panel is open by default over here on the side, so I can just click it, but sometimes the Swatches panel might be closed. So in order to find it, you would go to Window, and these are in alphabetical order, so you would go down here to Swatches and click that, and then this panel would pop open for you. So Swatches, I'm just going to grab the little tab there and tear it off. And I'm going to take this bottom part and drag it open a little bit. You can see that the basic swatches are quite limited. So what I'm going to do is add more colors to it by clicking on this little menu right here, going to Open Swatch Library, choosing Color Books, and then choosing Pantone Solid Coated. So now I have this giant menu of colors that I can use, and you can click on this bottom part and drag it so that you can see lots and lots of color options. So for this one, I will go ahead and choose maybe this light purple color. And because this fill swatch was on top, it changed the fill to purple. Now if I want to change the stroke, I have to click to make the stroke come forward, and then let's choose this crazy magenta color, and I can change the stroke like that. Now remember to deselect this. I can either switch to the move or the selection tool and click off of it, or the keyboard shortcuts is Control or Command Shift A, and now it's deselected. Okay, so the next tool that I'm going to use is the ellipse tool. So the ellipse, you can draw ovals, but you can also draw circles. So to draw a circle, I'm going to hold down Shift and then click and drag again. And by holding down Shift, I constrain this to a perfect circle instead of an oval. And the Shift key trick works on all of the objects. So if I wanted to make a perfect square instead of a rectangle, I would hold down Shift. Alright, so with the Move tool, I'm going to click this and kind of move it up a little bit, and I will change the color of both of these so they're not matching this one. So selecting the oval, I'll choose randomly this bright orange color, and say I want to switch those colors. So I can click this little double-headed arrow right here, and it will swap those colors. So now that the stroke is forward, I'll choose maybe this blue color right here. Quite dramatic. And maybe I'm tired of my stroke being that size, so I can change the stroke here by making it maybe smaller. size 3, or I can open the stroke panel over here on the side. And remember that if you don't see the stroke panel on the side, you go to Window, and it's in alphabetical order, and here's Stroke, and that would pop this panel open for you. Now right now the stroke panel is collapsed and I can't see all of my options, so I'm going to click on this little side menu and show options. So for this one I'm going to do something a little fancy. I'm going to click this dashed lines, and you can see what happened to my project. And I could make the dashes a different size, so instead of 12 I'll put in 20 and then click it off into another box, and you can see what happened. Alright, now I'm going to go to my circle, and with the circle, if I look over here, I have the stroke forward, so I'll do maybe this aqua blue colored stroke, and then I'll bring my fill forward, and I'll choose maybe this dark bluish purple color. Now for this one, I'm also going to do something fancy with the stroke that's on it, and that is I'm going to change the type of brush. So over here in my panels area, I'm going to click on the brush panel, and I will also grab that and pull it off here to the side so that I can see it. Now I have some very basic brushes, so I'll try this charcoal pencil one and see what happens when I click that. So it changed it to this artistic looking kind of irregular brush stroke. It's really small right now, so I can barely see it. So I'll go ahead and change the stroke to something a little larger, maybe size 4, and then I can see the effect that is having, and that looks pretty cool. Alright, let's move on to a couple of more tools. So let me click and hold on the tool and choose the polygon. So I'll just go ahead and click and drag, add a polygon, and you'll see how the polygon is kind of going over my other shapes. So as long as I don't let go of the mouse yet, I can actually hold down the space bar on the keyboard and I can move that. Alternately, you could get the selection tool and then move the object that way. Okay, a little bit large, so I'm going to shrink that down some. And I'll go ahead and change the colors. So let's say this, I haven't done green yet. How about this nice green? And I'll bring the stroke forward, and I'll do maybe a bright yellow stroke, and I can change the weight of it here, or I could go up to the menu here and change the weight of it there. And let's try some more fancy brushes. So I will add some more brushes to my options here. So I'll open this little side menu, go to Open Brush Library, and there's lots of options, but I'm just going to go ahead and choose Artistic, and randomly I'll choose Chalk and Charcoal Pencil. So now I have all of these choices here. I'll just click on the first one and see what happens. That's pretty cool. Let me change the sizes and see what happens. Well, that's pretty crazy. A little bit too big. Let me see. I think I like that 0.5. Alright, so the last tool that I want to show you, I'll click and hold on this, is called the Star tool. So the Star tool, I'm just going to click and drag, and remember, don't let go of the mouse yet, and you can hold down the space bar and move that object. And then I'm going to move some of these guys out of the way a little bit. Alright, so to change the color, right now I have the stroke forward, so I'll change the stroke to, I haven't used red yet, so I'll use this nice red right here. And it's pretty small, 0.5, so I'll change it to something larger so that I can see it. And then I will click to bring the fill forward. And what's something that goes well with red? I'll try a nice orange color. There we go. And let me get my fancy brush strokes back over here. And I'll try a couple of those out until I find one that I like. And I actually kind of liked that one a lot. So that's size 1, and I think size 1 actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to stop right there. I am not going to show you how to use the flare tool because it is very different than the other shape tools, and it's kind of has limited applications, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. So what you should do now is save your project. So go to File, Save, and navigate to the appropriate place where you're supposed to save your projects. And make sure that you turn in a copy of this to either Google Classroom or your portfolio, or whichever way your teacher decides to have you turn this in for grading. Okay, that's it for this video.